people and the security of the American people.
Well, let's analyze these remarks from President Biden with founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer. President Biden had a defensive tone in his speech on Thursday. It appears as though he chose his words carefully, not escalating things with China, with lines of communications not open at the time with that country. What dangers does that raise?
Well, Marcel, obviously the Chinese have sent that first balloon that we shot down on February 4th over the coast of South Carolina intentionally. They were conducting signals intelligence and potentially other types of surveillance over our country. They knew they were violating our airspace. They had gotten away with it multiple times before, at least 3 times in the Trump administration, at least once before in the Biden administration. So they thought they could get away with it again. The president and the team identified the balloon, decided to take action, and took the right action by shooting it down. We can debate whether it should have been earlier or later, but ultimately he took the right action by shooting it down. And so, the Chinese are now warned, right? You can't do that over the United States. And they've been making claims about us violating international norms. But to be clear, they're the ones who violated international law by sending that balloon without authorization over our airspace.
Now, let's talk about that debate about the timing. As for the other objects, the president said he did not know what they were, but they're believed to be benign. So why was there such a big push from Congress to inform the public?
Well, the real challenge here is that we for the first time probably in history that I'm aware of, shot down 4 different objects, 1 known Chinese spy balloon and 3 unidentified objects over North American airspace using fighter jets and missiles. This is an unprecedented action. And then you had the White House sort of quiet for the better part of a week, not saying anything. You had NORAD, the NORAD commander, saying he hadn't ruled out that they might be alien in nature. You had Karine Jean-Pierre from the White House podium saying they're definitely not alien. Some Defense Department officials had been saying things like the third one was definitely surveillance. And now you have the president coming out and saying just the opposite. Well, these 3 were likely benign, probably private company balloons, weather balloons, or research balloons. I mean, this is an unfortunate situation. I think obviously the White House and the Prime Minister in Canada are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to take action to protect American airspace. At the same time, this is not a good look for either of our countries in our air defenses. The fact that we didn't identify these objects beforehand, we did identify them and then took action, and now ultimately maybe shooting down what could be potentially middle school projects. I mean, it is somewhat troubling.
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth there for a second there. Biden, though, trying to find some solutions, directed his national security advisor to coordinate an interagency team to address these objects in the skies. Is this going to do much? What does this move say?
Well, one of the things that we did after the Chinese spy balloon, the president explained, was that we changed our filtering on our radars. Now, normally our radars would filter out things like the large Chinese spy balloon, but also these smaller objects. And by opening up our filters, we've identified a lot more objects, and now we've taken action against 3. Obviously, we want to make sure we're getting this right, that we're identifying the right things, that we have smart rules about what to take action against, what not to take action against, and differentiate between a Chinese spy balloon on one hand and potential private, ham radio projects or whatever it might be on the other. And so I think this interagency project to set the right rules and to put in place a set of procedures makes a lot of sense. There's no doubt we're going to make mistakes again, but we're also going to catch a lot more that we've been missing for all this time. And that's a really important thing because we can't accept foreign nation states and adversaries like China and Russia sending balloons over our airspace or any other object over our airspace and trying to identify our capabilities, what our military radars can and can't do, what our jets can and can't do. That's obviously a problem. And for sure, surveilling, sensitive sites like the nuclear ICBM silos that are there in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, where the Chinese spy balloon passed over.
Yeah, a lot more surveillance there. Jamil Jaffer, thank you so much for your insight here on this topic. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Marcel.